Yo, what's good, fam? So it's your man Jay, and of course I'm back with another episode of Evolutionary Comics. And today was actually it started out about to be a review video for the new IronHeart show. I did a video a couple weeks back with my anticipation on the show, and I kind of spoke a little bit about some of the negative press that they were getting, and some of the naysayers about the show. Now that the show is out, and when I saw the other day that it was the #1 streaming show on Disney Plus, I guess, I was super excited, and I was like, okay, well, let me throw in my review as well. But as YouTubers, we watch YouTube a lot, and I happened to come across somebody else's review, and I watch this guy's channel often. He's one of those people that seems to always have his ear to the street, so to speak, when it comes to Marvel MCU stuff. Not Marvel, just comics, but MCU related stuff. And I'm one of those. I'm a straight shooter. I'm not a person that I don't be trying to cause drama and all that extra stuff. But when I see things or I hear things, that I care about, I'm gonna speak up on that. And I talked about Comic Tom a few months back, and it seemed like that was one of my most watched videos. So people love drama and love the extraness, but that is not my intent. I'm not trying to get likes or not for that purpose. And I'm not trying to cause, drama with a channel that's way larger than mine. This dude is a heavyweight in the YouTube comic culture. And, I just didn't like some of the stuff that he said about the show, his review, because there were some inaccuracies. And that's one thing I'm going to do, is I'm going to call out inaccuracies. So without further ado, let's get it. All right, so like I said, I was prepping to do my little research and see things that I might have missed. I watched the Riri Williams. I call it the Riri Williams show. I watched the IronHeart show. The first 3 episodes, I watched them twice, just so I'll see if I missed anything, or if something that I didn't know comes about. And there was a couple of different things that as far as these new characters that I didn't know about. The trans character, Slug, I believe that's the character's name. I didn't pay attention to the fact that person was a trans person. I just thought that the person was dope. And I saw that I was watching Dre Mack's show, and somebody was in the chat, and they were talking about how straight heterosexual men had a problem with the character and how they froze up when that character was shown. Nah, sorry, not all of us are like that. So, when I first saw the character, my first thought was Slug is highly capable, very proficient at the things that needed to be done. And I didn't understand what the need for Rampage to even be there, other than just being a body. So they were emphasizing Rampage being, the hacker and everything, when Slug was the person that they should have been rocking with from day one. But anyway, that's the only thing I thought about it. Other than that, I didn't like the Bruise brothers, sisters, or whatever. I didn't like their characters because it seems like they didn't have much substance to them. So those are amongst the things that I didn't like. But as I traveled along and I was watching stuff, I came across Everything Always. And as the title of this particular video, everything ain't always. And Charlie is, I think he's a necessary evil. His channel, basically they, give scoops on, different things that are supposed to happen in the MCU, and kind of similar to the comic other guy that I had made a mention of. They throw out stuff, and it seems like they're throwing out a lot of stuff to see what sticks, And if it's successful, then they're going to be like, see, I told y'all, and they're going to take credit and make it seem like they're geniuses. And then when it doesn't work, then, you know, they kind of fade into the back and, you know, just kind of let things be and hope people forget and go on to the next thing. But I'm going to tell you, I'm speaking from the love of the character. I'm a fan of Brian Michael Bendis. I love the characters he creates. I love his work within Marvel Comics and beyond, some of the other stuff he's done too. I'm a fan of Riri Williams. I'm a fan of IronHeart. Ever since, you know, Invincible Iron Man #7, which I didn't know about until later. I didn't find out about Riri until probably like 2017, 2018. And when I got one of my prized books in my collection, Invincible Iron Man #1, the Amalgam Comics cover. So that's when I actually started finding out about Riri, and I fell in love with the character ever since then. I read the Invincible Iron Man. I think it might have been volume 3 that Brian Michael Bendis did. I read that one, and of course I read the Eve Ewing run, and just absolutely love the character. Think that she's a dope little sister. I love the fact that she's super intelligent. I felt that it gave her character substance when they showed that, you know, she actually had went through something. The setting was great because it was Chicago, and we know that in America, we know Chicago is a very wild place and anything could happen, like many other places. But Chicago has so much culture that, you know, when things get extremely crazy there, it does get amplified a little bit. So it kind of related. I love when the scene is set in comic books and in writing in general. So those are among the things that I really love. But back to my man Charlie with Everything Always. When he was doing his review, he said some things that, you know, kind of go along with the maggots. And I never really, you know, considered Charlie a maggot, and I never really thought that you know, that he purposely swayed things based off of the negativity. I don't know how he personally feels or what was his reasoning for doing it, but one of the first things that he said was he claimed that the show had a slow start, and that it was the dialogue was pretty rough. I don't know where that comes from because I didn't get that as his opinion, but going along with some of the other stuff he said, it seemed as though that he had an agenda right off the bat by saying stuff like that. It didn't have a slow start because with every story, there's a progression, and you want to inform the person watching, or you want to inform the reader about the characters as you progress for the greater good of the whole story. That's what happened. I think they did an excellent job. And give a shout out to, I think I want to say, I don't want to mess up the name, but I think it's Shanika Hodge is the writer. Brian Michael Bendis created the character, him and Mike Diodato, but Shanika Hodge is the one that wrote the show. Everybody's giving Ryan Coogler a lot of props because he's the executive producer. He, you know, probably got it put together, but give credit to the writer, and she did a fantastic job with the show. But anyway, you know, going on, he said some other stuff like, you know, he pointed out how Riri made the comment that she wanted to be bigger than Tony Stark, bigger than Steve Jobs and stuff like that. And he said it in a way that he said she was self-grandizing, and like it was such a bad thing for her to have that outlook and that opinion. And as people, we always want to be in a position where we're trying to be greater than whatever our predecessors were. And as she said, you know, no shade to Tony Stark, and she gave him props as far as being like somebody who she looked up to as far as, you know, the tech industry that they were in. So you know, I don't know, like the self-grandizing thing, it goes on to, you know, for some other stuff, but when she also said that Tony Stark wouldn't be Tony Stark if he wasn't a billionaire. And again, my man, you know, pointed out her saying that and was like, he adamantly, if you watch his video, he's like false, you know, like like it was such a negative thing that she said. But the reality of what she was saying was Tony Stark wouldn't be as great as he is, possibly, if he wasn't a billionaire, meaning that he had the money, he had the resources, he was able to, be more educated even before he went into that cave and created that Iron Man armor or whatever. He knew he had the know-how because he had the resources and the education to get there. And yeah, she does have, the education by being one of the youngest people to go to MIT. She entered MIT, I believe, at the age of 15. She's a child genius. She was declared a genius like at 7 or 8. I forget the exact age or whatever. But she graduated high school early, went to MIT at the age of 15, and the setting now for the story where she's 19 and they say that she's not close to getting her degree, but it goes also back into when she said that, she's tired of being in classrooms where she has to explain things to the professors. When and it's one of those things when, the student surpasses the master, then you got to give homage to who the real master is in that situation. And it was evident with the guy, the professor, how he seemed more like a sniveling little, weasel, when she's done something, and he runs off or whatever. And he was super excited to get her kicked out of school. The other comment that Charlie made was that Riri claimed that she was making the suit to help first responders. Now, for me, her stating that she wanted to help, EMTs and firefighters and different people to be more efficient, to be able to do their job better. You got to think, she's from Chicago. Her best friend and her stepdad were gunned down in a drive-by shooting, in an accident. They were byproducts of a drive-by shooting. So I could see that she has some kind of affinity for first responders, wanting them to be able to help people more. So for it to be said that she's claimed is like, okay, you now you're saying she's a liar, and then to add on to that, you called her a thief and pointed out that she was a cheater, but you didn't point out the fact that that those privileged upperclassmen, those people that were already going to the school that were supposed to be so intelligent, that got there from a privileged position, that they were the ones catering to her, going to get her to do their homework for them because they were too lazy to do it or not smart enough to do it. And going back to, and also lending to her opinion that money got a lot of those people where they were. So, it's not such a bad thing saying that she was a cheater if you're not going to point out the fact that you had all of these people catering. She was catering to students at some of the top universities in that area, to the top colleges in that area, Cambridge and all those other places. So if she has time to do that and be building, this armor, that further lends to her genius. She's even more intelligent and more capable than, given credit. And as far as being a thief, the colleges are the real thief. That's why they have a NIL in place now. That's why there's NIL invented, period, because colleges, all of these universities across the nation, they've been making money off the talents of their students, whether it's on the football field or in sports or even in the tech field. And it was also stated, not by her, but by somebody else, that she built that suit using her own money. So it wasn't, grant money. It wasn't, money from the school, but it was from her hustling. So stop trying to, like I say, if you guys that are watching my fan base, not because y'all not fans, but my subscribers, my friends who are actually watching this, if y'all, are kind of teetering on, the opinion of it all, but y'all think about it, everything that he was saying was painting her in such a negative light. And that's why I'm making this video, because I hate that. It's already so much negativity. When I first learned about Riri, and I started, reading into the character and everything. It was, the hoopla about, oh, she's trying to take Tony Stark's place. Marvel is, doing they didn't call it DEI back then, but Marvel is trying to race swap and gender swap and all of this thing, and we don't need somebody, leave our characters alone. But it was never stated that she was trying to become Iron Man. She was like a protege. Nobody flipped out and went crazy when they showed Iron Lad. Nobody's going crazy with a lot of other characters, but it's just so funny that, because it's a super intelligent little black girl, that now all of a sudden, people are going crazy. And that's why I call you guys maggots, the people who have those racist overtones to all of their opinions. I call you guys maggots. So if y'all don't know, that's who I'm talking about, the maggots, when I refer to people as maggots. So but anyway, it just kind of hurts the show when people are putting all this negativity onto the character and onto the show, trying to dissuade people from watching it. And whether you watch it or not, that's on you. I just feel like it's a great show, and I want to give it props because of the greatness that I've seen in it. Let me go back to the last thing that I want to talk about that he said was that that Riri acts like she's God's gift, and that goes all the way back to like I was saying, when I first started learning about the character, people said that she was arrogant. And, she thinks she's this, and has a smart mouth and all of these other things. But it's a lot of other characters, too, that got a lot of arrogance. You honestly can't point to too many of these headliner characters that aren't arrogant. Thor is arrogant. He walks around telling everybody knows that he's a god from Asgard, and he constantly has to tell everybody that. If you think about it, in the MCU, he's constantly telling people that he's a god from Asgard or whatever. Tony Stark is one of the most arrogant. You guys' favorite Batman, he's the quiet type, but he's hella arrogant, So arrogance is not something that, that you guys really want to point to somebody and be all pissed off and say that this little kid is arrogant. And, you could say that, well, she hasn't done anything, but, that's because people aren't giving the character a chance to progress. Saying that the comic book was crap, a lot of you guys, I don't know what you expect from comic books, but your expectations of that particular comic book compared to a lot of other stuff is completely off base. I've been reading a lot of different comic books that I'm simply continuing to buy because I've bought so many already, but the story is dropping off. And then some of the great writers, like Philip Kennedy Johnson, I love his writing, but he's been writing The Incredible Hulk for so long. I forget which issue. I think it's issue 24. I got one of them over here, issue 24. But there's been lulls in the story. So that's what happens in a lot of comic books when they go on and on like that. But you get another particular comic book, and especially black comic books or comic books that are featuring black characters or written by black writers, they have a much shorter leash. And, Marvel is at fault partially for that, but the other fault lies in the lack of support. And, that's why a lot of blurs are going towards the indie route, and which you should be picking up indie comic books anyway. But there's enough room. I think there's enough room in the culture and the comics for you to buy your indie stuff and also buy, the regular, the big two or the big three, Marvel, DC, Image, stuff like that as well. So, again, that's why I'm making the video. That's why this is my little IronHeart rant or whatever. All right, and so back to the good stuff about the show that I'm really digging. Like I already said, I dug the character Slug. I like that character has flavor. I like the fact that character is from Madripoor, which I guess somebody said that was the first time that one of the first times, maybe it's been spoken of a couple of times, but they actually spoke about somebody being from Madripoor. Being there. So that was interesting in itself. Parker Robbins, he's doing an absolutely great job. Anthony Ramos is playing Parker Robbins. He's doing a great job with that. That dude, Anthony Ramos, has been around for a minute. I watched him in Hamilton. I thought he killed that. A lot of people don't know that he also was in one of my favorite movies from back in the day, She's Gotta Have It. He was in the remake of that. Thought he was dope in that. Of course, Dominique Thorne. I love her, period, because she's just a real dope character, and or a real dope actress playing the Riri Williams character. Who else? I said I don't like the Blood Sisters. The dude that's playing Xavier, I thought that was dope. The only part, speaking of that, not being negative, but going to stuff that I don't like, because I don't think the show was absolutely perfect, but I think it was a really dope show, and I really think that it's a lot better than people thought it was. And for me, I actually would say that other than Luke Cage, it's one of the best shows that I've seen. Luke Cage is the #1 show in my book when it comes to the characters as far as shows go. And I will put this show already within, that top two, 3 or 4 shows. So that's just my opinion. And the reason why I say that too is, to go on, I love the soundtrack. The soundtrack, people don't realize soundtracks have a whole lot to do with the show and how it sets the scene. The soundtrack is so fitting with Chicago and the culture. When she was walking down the street, it just reminded me of when I took a trip to Chicago. And Chicago was like one of my beloved cities because it's a great place for photography and people. And I started off in photography doing architectural photography. So that was always on my bucket list to go to Chicago and take pictures of the skyline, of different buildings, of stuff like that. The river, all of that kind of stuff. But this show brought me back to when I visited with the music and just seeing how everything, people were moving about and everything. I thought that was hella dope. I love that part about it. Nose is itching. I thought it was really cool when they showed Miss Stanton, played by Cree Summer. I absolutely loved her all the way back when she was on A Different World. She's a hell of an actress. I love her voiceovers. I didn't know it was her for a long time. I think maybe a couple years ago I found out that she was the one doing all these voiceovers. But I'm super happy about that. And I'm going to tell you why. Because that also is, the introduction of Zelma Stanton. Zelma Stanton, I didn't know about her until Strange Academy, the comic book Strange Academy came out. And when I was looking at all the characters, I was like, okay, this is cool. My favorite character is actually Zoe Laveau. So the little girl who, without her amulet, she ends up turning into a zombie. But that's my favorite character. But I was digging all the other characters. So the reason why I'm excited to see her on the show, and #1, I think from the trailers that was shown, she seems like a really dope character just from those little clips. So it's remain to be seen. We'll see Tuesday night, I guess. But if you got Zelma Stanton, what's the possibility? Because I know people are talking about, Mephisto making an appearance in that last episode. We thought that was Mephisto, but somebody else threw out there as well that it might have been Charlie, saying that that character might be Dormammu. And the reason why I think that would be cool is because if you read Strange Academy, you'll know that Dormammu's son Doyle actually goes to Strange Academy and is a classmate of Zelma Stanton's. So just that whole mix and the possibilities there, because if you get Zelma Stanton and just say you show another kid from Strange Academy and then that's Dormammu that's actually there, say they show Doyle and then they show his dad Dormammu, then it brings into the possibility of what's going to happen next in Strange Academy on the horizon as far as being another show, which I heard that it was optioned and it was picked up. So, we'll see how Marvel handles that. But that was another thing that I really dug about the show. I liked that the acting was decent. I ain't gonna say it was decent. It was good. Like I say with Anthony Ramos, I think that Dominique Thorne did a good job. Didn't like the scene where Riri and her mom were interacting in the kitchen, and her mom was like, I heard you crying, and she wasn't really crying like that where you could hear it. So that was weird. I also didn't think the placement when Xavier had the mixtape and he was playing it, and then you could hear Natalie's voice on there, and it was like a voice message that she left him. It just didn't. It seemed like, why would you put, just a general message like that on the mixtape? I could see if she was saying, I love you, and saying something prolific to him, but it just seemed kind of misplaced for me. As far as the AI with Natalie, I think that's super dope. I love how they were consistent with the comic book on, them, the Natalie and the stepdad being gunned down. I like that part because, like I said, that's one of the things that gives Riri character. And Natalie, the AI isn't aggravating to me. I think it's like a necessary evil because remember, it's a little girl. That's when Natalie died. She was 13 or something like that, 13 or 14 years old. So she still has, that little girl mentality almost. So that's just her dealing with her friend. What else? I also want to point out that, like I said, a lot of people have been critical of Ryan Coogler, and I'm still pissed at him about the recast T'Challa thing. I am. I can say that, but I enjoyed Sinners, and I enjoyed this show. But like people have been upset with Ryan Coogler and at the way he handles the certain things. But the fact that them showing, maybe this is more credit to Brian Michael Bendis than Ryan Coogler. So let me say that part. But with the stepfather, just like in the comic book, so it was in the movie. I'm glad they kept this part in the movie, and maybe it was Miss Hodge that actually wanted this part in the movie. That the stepfather, it wasn't like he was just gunned down. He was shot because he was trying to protect Riri and Natalie. So he was like trying to take a bullet or jumping in their way, sacrificing himself. So I point that out to say that yeah, it sucks because a black father has to die, and it's a kid growing up without a father, or somebody who was very instrumental to them. But at the same time, it showed that the black father was being the hero in this particular movie, in this particular story. So I like that part. I thought that was super, super dope. Clown, that character is kind of, that's the only that I would say that character is maybe a little aggravating for me, and the fact that she went in there and just going in the man's closet trying to put on the hood and act the fool and stuff like that. I guess that's that had to happen for other things to happen, but that part aggravated me. I didn't like that. So anyway, overall, I thought it was a dope show. I enjoyed the show. I can't wait till Tuesday so I can watch the next 3 episodes. And the overall, synopsis of this particular video, of my particular review, is you guys give it a chance. If you're not a maggot, if you're just a regular person, and I don't knock people who say they've seen it and they just don't like it, or they know about Riri Williams and they just don't like it for some reason, but have a good reason. If you're gonna tell somebody that you don't like something, have a good reason to, and be valid in the reasons why you don't like it. Other than that, if you don't like it, just be quiet. Go sit in your corner and look at the wall and enjoy the paint or something like that. But I wanted to make my own video, my own little review video, and talk about, defend the show from people like Charlie, who was being extremely negative towards the show, and also tell people that, don't listen to, all the negativity. Watch the show for yourself, and be like a whole bunch of other people, obviously, and watch it and keep it the #1 streaming show on Disney for a while. So yeah, so that's what's up. Again, like I say, I love the character, I love the show, and I can't wait to see more. that's enough for me. You know, I'm gonna get off my little soapbox. This is a little quick little video, whatnot. But I appreciate y'all for stopping in and checking it out. If you like what I have to say, you know, if you like my takes on different things, because I don't really do reviews or show reviews, so that's why it seems all scattered. But I enjoy the content. So if you kind of dig it, you know, like it. If you really dig it, subscribe to the channel. And if you think I'm the bomb diggity, share it with your friends and tell them to come check out your man Jay. Continue to evolve. Evolutionary Comics, and we out. Peace.